Another school year has come and gone. Together with my kids, we built a best of our homeschool year. Today I'm going to be sharing that with you, but I'm not the only one. Be sure to check out the playlist below to find other people who are also sharing the best of their homeschool year. If you're new to my channel, I'm Tricia, and my kids are ages, my daughter finished 7th grade, she is 12. My middle son is 9 and he finished 3rd grade this year, and my youngest is 7 and finished 1st grade. It's hard to believe that 2016-2017 school year is done. Our first school year was 2009-2010, and Matthew was just a little microscopic thing in my uterus still. So to now have him finishing 1st grade blows me away. I have several categories that I'm going to share with you today, so we'll just get started and go right down the list. The first one is I asked my kids the best audiobook or book I read out loud to them this year. We didn't do a whole lot of me reading out loud this year with historical fiction like I usually do, but we listened to a lot of audiobooks. We moved this last summer, and so we now have a long drive every place we go, so it gives us a lot of opportunity to get through audiobooks. And their two favorite ones were War Horse, which is a fictionalized story of the horses that were used in World War I. And specifically one story of one horse and his owner and what he goes through. It sounds kind of crazy, but it was really good. I loved it. My daughter, she was not amused to be listening to it, and she even enjoyed it. The other one was Code Talker, and it tells the story of the Navajo Marines who participated in World War II with their secret language that was undecipherable by others. It was so good. It follows a story specifically of one Marine, but it tells, not just his story, but the story of others and the story of the Navajos in whole and how their contributions to World War II. It was so good. Both of those I would recommend to anyone. My kids all enjoyed them, and we're at that age where it's kind of difficult to find ones that everybody really enjoys, but those were their two favorites. The best change I made this year was to outsource algebra for my daughter. I had not planned to do it. We went through pre-algebra last year, and we did well. I was confident in my ability to teach algebra, but what made me decide to change was just thinking about how much time it took up last year. We could have made it work, but I just decided it was something that I wouldn't mind outsourcing. We went with myhomeschoolmathclass.com. I found it through the Well-Trained Mind discussion boards. It was excellent. When Elizabeth's school year is over, she still has a couple more weeks, I will do a video discussing it. I loved it. It was a perfect fit for her this year. It was a great introduction to online classes for her. She learned a lot more about, pacing and self-discipline with keeping on top of the work that her teacher assigned. She learned to take tests, which she had never done before, and I'm proud to say that she did great with it. It was just an excellent thing, and I am so glad that I made that decision last summer. Best new curriculum. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you may know that this is not something that was brand new this year, but it was new last spring. It's Beast Academy Math by Art of Problem Solving. We did 3B and 3C this year. I use this with Ben. We have struggled with finding math that fits well for him. Once he learns a subject, once he learns something, he doesn't want to have to keep practicing it. He hates that. And also, he doesn't really need a lot of it. He also really loves story formats. and he really likes to be challenged. This book hits all of those things for him. I do have a spotlight on this that I will link, but see, it's like a cartoon version, and then the problems, there's not very many, and they're not repetitive, and they really challenge him and make him make connections that most math programs do not. Even though we started it last spring, I didn't really realize how much I loved it until this year. I love it. I am so glad that we found this one. Best field trips of the year. In the fall, we met up with my sister and her girls and my mom in Knoxville. And one of the days we were going to go to the Smoky Mountains. We were just going to go and, on our own. But my mom found mentioned about a tour of it, the part of the mountains, in one of those travel brochure things from the hotel. And so we called, and the person who came to do our tour the next day was a retired history teacher. He had been volunteering in the area for a long time and knew a lot, and he took us around, and it was so good. The part that we were in was kind of like a village area. I forget the name of it, but a village area in the mountains or in the park. And he knew so much about the history of it, and it was supposed to be a 2-hour tour, but it ended up being about 2.5, maybe closer to 3. It was so good. I will leave the name of the tour company below. I forget it right now. I sent my sister a message, but she hasn't responded yet. It was so good, and it just made it so much better than we got so much more out of it than we would have if we'd just gone on our own to do it. So, but locally, our best field trip of the year was when we went to, over in Raleigh, there is both free, a natural sciences museum and a history museum. They're located right next to each other. We went over there a couple months ago when my daughter had a friend in town, and those two museums are so good, especially for free. The Science Museum is definitely more developed, and I would say it's better than the History Museum, but the History Museum is definitely worth a trip as well. So locally, those were our best kids' favorite books. I asked them each, and Elizabeth said that her favorites were either The War That Saved My Life, which is a World War II one, or Tuck Everlasting. And the fact that she liked Tuck Everlasting warmed my heart, because that's one of my favorite young adult books. Matthew discovered the Dick and Jane series, kind of like the original ones, and he loved those. I had no idea they would be such a hit for him, because the other two, I'm not sure actually if Elizabeth did. I know I introduced it to Ben, and he was like, whatever. But Matthew loved them. We checked them out from our library, and he was so sad to return each of them, and we've had them on rotation for a while now. And Ben, he was very reluctant, because the one he wanted to tell me was Harry Potter. He started reading that this year. We listened to it, the first two as well, and he started reading. So that was what he wanted to say, but I told him it had to be something we read for school. And so his choice was the Guts and Glory series. There are several of them. As you might guess, they deal with different wars, but they're really good. They're like short little biographies of different people. So, yeah, nothing amazing, but he enjoyed them and was able to learn quite a bit. So, I'll take it. Best documentaries. We love documentaries. We watched quite a few. My kids' favorites from this year were Scenic National Park, which streams free on Amazon Prime. There are, I think, a dozen episodes, and some of them feature, like, take a look at one park itself, but then there are other ones that are like the best of winter in the parks, best of Christmas in the parks, those kind of things. they're really good. They're not really heavy, they're not real in depth, but they're enjoyable. The scenery's good. My kids love them. Next one would be Forces of Nature, which is a PBS one. There are 4 episodes in it, and they go with physics for us for this year. Shape, color, I forgot. I looked them up so I would know, but I don't remember now. Anyway, I will leave the link for Forces of Nature below. My kids all loved Forces of Nature. And the last one would be a series that we found on YouTube. It's an older series by ABC. It's called The Century. And you may know the book, but it takes the century of the 1900s, divides it up into different episodes, and talks about what's happening in those times. But what's really nice about it is that because it's made for, a general audience, the segments are short. They give a broad introduction, but not in depth. It covered topics that we weren't covering in our history, but was able to put it into place of where it would go within our history. So I will leave a link for that below as well. It's a really, really great series. Best piece of advice I learned this year is not to try to force my schedule preferences on my kids. At the beginning of the year when I made up our schedule, I had myself rotating between the boys. So like first thing in the morning, one morning I would work with one boy, the next one I would work with the other boy, and we'd kind of rotate like that. Matthew didn't really care. Ben hated that. Hated it. And I like the variety. And so I kept trying to force it, and it was just not working. And as soon as I just said, okay, I'll work with Matthew first every day, and then with Ben, it was amazing how much more got done. So, there are times when your schedule needs have to win out, but if you can make it work, their schedule, what works for them schedule-wise, works. Just do it. It's not worth the fight. And that can be said for a lot of things with our school days. Favorite topics of the year, and this one I chose. And I had a hard time choosing between World War I, because I never learned much about World War I. I don't know about you, but in high school and elementary school, we just kind of jumped over World War I. I don't know why. I don't know, but we never really studied it much. So to learn about it was wonderful. I had no idea how much World War I and the after effects, still reverberate today, and I just didn't know much about it. So that was that. But I also really loved our World War II unit because we had a great mixture of sources and variety and topics and what we learned about. And it was, I was blown away. I really, really loved it. Favorite new resources would be The New Way Things Work. I'm sure you're probably tired of me talking about this by now. I just actually put up another one last week, I think it was, that talked about this. I love this book. I had no idea I would love it, but it is a great book for science, especially if you're going to be doing any physics. I would highly recommend this book. I was able to buy it used on Amazon for under $15 with shipping. It was so good. Definitely recommend this. And this isn't technically a new resource because we've used the part of this series before, but we haven't used the physics one, so I'm going to recommend it. It is The Physics for Every Kid by Janice Von Cleve. She has a whole series of these, and they are so good. She does a really good job of describing what should happen. The materials are a mixture of truly household things and things that aren't so household but aren't hard to obtain. Nearly everyone we've done has worked, which is saying something, which is kind of impressive because often they don't work. But they're really good. Really good. I highly recommend these. And again, I bought this one used off of Amazon. And now I'm going to end it with some of my favorite memories of the school year. First one would be Matthew learning to read. The process for learning to read for my oldest was not easy. It was not smooth. And my middle one, pretty well, but he didn't want to learn to read. My youngest just took to it naturally. You hear the stories of kids who just, one day it clicks, but that wasn't my experience. At the beginning of the year, I could tell he was getting very close. So one day I put down one of the Bob books on the couch, thinking that if he stumbled across it, that he might be able to figure it out. And that's exactly what happened. It made me cry, because to see how it can actually happen, and to know also that I was done teaching kids to read, it just brought tears to me. So that was a big memory. Field tripping with my kids, just in general. I love field trips with my kids. They're good travelers. We just have a lot of fun. And I really enjoy that. My daughter being excited about physics is something else I'll treasure about this year. She's never, I wouldn't say she hated science or anything, but she never really loved science. But last spring she started really enjoying meteorology. And so I thought physics would be a nice topic for us to do this year, since, you know, they go together. And she has loved physics. Really excited about physics. Before, she'd go along with science, but it was not for something she loved. But to see her excited about physics this year and putting the pieces together herself, and then seeing how she uses it outside of the schoolroom, I'm sure you've had this experience yourself, that just seeing your child light up in a way that you didn't expect them to fall into, it's just a really neat thing. And my last memory would be squishing up together on our love seat to watch shows on YouTube. When I bought this love seat several years ago, we were still in El Paso, and it was small and it fit us. We could all easily fit on this love seat. We cannot fit so easily on it anymore, but we all kind of squished together on it, and at the feet, you know, on the ground below it. And it's just something I really enjoy, like the memories of us squishing together and watching. I don't know, I hope those are the kinds of memories that my kids take with them when they grow up. So there is the best of our homeschool year. Like I said, be sure to check the playlist below so that you can go find out the best of other people's school years. I am so excited for this playlist, and I can't wait to watch other videos. If you want to put up a video sharing, even if you're not a YouTuber, do it. I'd love to have you. Or if you have a blog and want to do it, link will be below, or leave your link below. I'd love to have you participate. And thanks for watching.